I knew something was off the second I saw that construction crew drilling rebar straight into my land. 6 inches over the line, to be exact. 6 inches that didn't belong to them, but belonged to me. And standing right there, arms folded and sunglasses gleaming like she owned half the county, was Karen. Self-appointed HOA president of a neighborhood that wasn't even supposed to have an HOA. You want a hook? Picture this. A woman with a fake title, a BMW, and enough attitude to fill a city block, trespassing right into my world like rules were made for everyone but her. When I called her out, she didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't even try to deny it. She just gave me that little smirk, tossed her hair, and said, "Relax. It's only 6 inches. No one cares." But I cared. And Karen, well, she had no idea those 6 little inches were about to become the most expensive mistake of her life. One that would rip apart her fake HOA kingdom, drain her bank accounts, and cost her far more than that illegal dream house she'd built. Now, folks talk about peace and quiet like it's a luxury, something you buy for a weekend, a couple hours without sirens or leaf blowers. For me, peace and quiet was life. My land sat on a 5-acre strip, hugged by thick trees and a creek that ran like a lullaby every morning. My father bought it back in '85 when the world was slower and land didn't cost a fortune. He spent weekends showing me how to clear brush, mark boundaries, and above all, respect what you own. That land wasn't fancy. It was never a mansion or some influencer's paradise, but it was mine. No mortgage, no HOA, no one telling me what shade my porch had to be or measuring the height of my grass with a ruler. It was just home. Everything changed the day Karen Mitchell showed up, fresh from the city, trailing entitlement and a Pinterest board full of cabin fantasies. She bought the parcel right next to mine, and before she'd even unpacked her moving boxes, started talking about community standards and structure guidelines. Out here, the only standard was mind your own business and never bother the person holding chainsaw. But Karen, she wasn't just excited. She was performing rural life for her audience. She live-streamed box unpackings, posted City Girl Goes Country videos, even uploaded drone shots of her land with quotes about peace and freedom. Then spent every Saturday screaming at contractors because her decorative shutters weren't Pinterest perfect. She paraded around in yoga outfits, inspecting everything like she was reviewing the troops. And every time she passed my drive, she'd slow down, glare like I was some kind of stain on her dreamscape. Truth is, I didn't have a problem with new neighbors. People come and go. I figured maybe, with time, she'd settle in, realize out here, HOA talk didn't fly. Maybe she'd plant her lavender and leave me in peace. But Karen had that special kind of energy, the kind that believes rules are for everyone else, and being loud is the same as being right. When construction on her dream house started, it wasn't just busy, it was a full-on invasion. Trucks, cement mixers, bulldozers, survey crews, guys with clipboards yelling into radios. They cleared half her lot, dug deep, and started laying rebar like they were building a fortress. I kept to myself, figured as long as they stuck to their side, they could build a castle if they wanted. But every day I walked my line, checked the old iron stake my dad set back in the '80s, noticed their foundation inching closer, then too close. I'm no surveyor, but I know my boundaries. My dad drilled that into me. The stake never moved. But their wall, it kept crawling over, until one morning I found 6 solid inches of concrete and steel planted square on my side. 6 inches of someone else's dream poured right over decades of my work and my family's sweat. I waved down a worker, asked for Karen. You could tell by the way the crew eyed her arriving BMW. She wasn't an easy boss. She pulled up, sunglasses and all, like she was stepping onto a runway. Saw me, gave that annoyed eyebrow, and when I explained very politely that her foundation was over the line, she didn't even walk over. Just whipped out her phone, pulled up some cheap GPS app, and pointed, "The line's there, see? All good." I had to bite my tongue. "Karen, those apps are off by 10 feet. They're not survey grade." She smirked. "Well, your iron stake looks old. Maybe it moved. It was set in concrete. It hadn't moved in 40 years. She rolled her eyes. "It's just 6 inches. Barely measurable. But what mattered more than a line was her attitude. Dismissive, arrogant, like boundaries were just an inconvenience. She didn't care about property rights, just her convenience. When I suggested halting construction for a certified survey, she waved me off. If something's off, we'll deal with it later. That was her whole plan. Just keep building, make it permanent, force me into a corner. In that moment, something inside me changed. I was done being reasonable. If Karen wanted to deal with it later, later was going to hit her like a freight train. That night, I dug out every survey my dad ever saved, yellowed paper, sharp lines, markers that matched exactly, even the updated survey from when I refinanced. No shift, no ambiguity. I printed copies, put them in a binder, and headed over. The concrete had already set, 6 inches of it, permanent like an uninvited guest. Karen was arguing with contractors. When she saw me, it was that same exasperated sigh. I tried again, showed her certified surveys. She barely glanced, then handed them back. Outdated. Karen, I said, this isn't just a detail. Your house foundation is on my property. She actually laughed. It's 6 inches. Who cares? That's when I realized she didn't want the truth, just convenience. I pressed one last time. She finally suggested, why don't we just shift the property line? I'll handle the paperwork. You should be grateful. Your land value goes up. I just stared, stunned. She snapped. Be reasonable. I'm not tearing down my house for 6 inches. That was it. Karen crossed her arms, battle ready. I'm not stopping. If you keep interfering, I'll file a complaint with the HOA for harassment. I blinked. Karen, there is no HOA. She smiled. We formed it last month. I'm president. We voted unanimously. There were only 2 properties. Her husband, and now 2 new neighbors she'd roped into a fake committee. My fists clenched. Not from anger, but from the realization she really believed she could bend reality to her will. Look, she said, unless you want to donate 6 inches to the HOA for community improvement, let it go. I actually laughed. Karen, this isn't a negotiation. Move it or tear it out. Her face darkened. You're being aggressive. No, I said. I'm being clear. This is property law. She stepped closer, chin up. We're building a dream home. You're not going to ruin that over a few inches. I looked straight at her. Karen, if you keep building on my property, you're breaking the law. She smirked. Then sue me. So I did. I spent days documenting every angle. Photos, videos, timestamps, survey markers. Karen doubled down, drove a new stake into my land, hammered it in, and declared it the new boundary. Put up signs. HOA expansion zone. It was so absurd, I almost thought it was a prank. But Karen was dead serious, convinced herself she was the law, and anyone who challenged her was an obstacle. I gave her one last warning, calm and clear. Her response? Pink paper, gold sticker, HOA notice of noncompliance. I sent everything to my attorney, a real property lawyer, not some newsletter guy. He called it a textbook case. Karen ignored the cease and desist, posted everything online, painted me as an anti-HOA extremist. But the more she escalated, the deeper the hole she dug for herself. When the lawsuit was finally filed, everything changed. Sheriff's deputy served her at the door. She screamed, "I'm the HOA president," as if that meant anything to the law. Word spread through our little town. Suddenly, I was the guy suing the fake HOA lady. Sympathy was on my side, but sympathy doesn't win cases, evidence does, and I had it all. Karen posted more signs, sent newsletters stuffed with glitter and threats of fines for trespassing. One neighbor mailed her newsletter back with "didn't read." No, HOA here, written in Sharpie. Buyers wouldn't touch her house once they saw the easement. No one wanted a lawsuit. No one wanted a Karen problem. Her husband, poor guy, started looking like he was aging in dog years. In court, Karen strutted in wearing a pink blazer, clutching a binder labeled HOA case file. Her lawyer, a guy who looked more comfortable at a printer than a courtroom, tried to argue it was just 6 inches, and they'd tried to compromise. The judge was having none of it. When Karen tried to argue, the judge cut her off. Sit down. We laid out everything. Surveys, photos, videos of her pounding in fake stakes, audio of her saying, "It's only illegal if I lose." The judge listened, silent, then ruled, "Deliberate, willful encroachment." She hit Karen with over $100,000 in penalties, land value, legal fees, new surveys, the works. Karen exploded, ranted about discrimination against HOA leaders, stormed out of the courtroom, and for the first time in months, I felt light. Justice wasn't just served, it was served hot, with a side of reality check. But Karen wasn't done. She kept escalating, mailed neon newsletters calling me the enemy of community harmony, claimed I'd verbally assaulted her, lied about everything. But the neighborhood knew the truth. One neighbor returned her newsletter inside a bag of glitter, an obvious jab at her obsession with sparkle. The real blow came when she tried to sell the house, and no one wanted it. No one wants to inherit a legal mess and a permanent easement. Weeks passed. Karen's Instagram rants faded, her BMW sat dusty, and one day, a U-Haul appeared. She and her husband packed quietly, left at dawn. No goodbyes, no glitter, just gone. A few weeks later, a new couple knocked on my door. They found paperwork about the easement, wanted to do things right, pay a fair price, clean the slate. For the first time in a year, I had real neighbors, humble, respectful, grateful for honesty. They bought out the easement, no drama. With that money, I built a small pine cabin overlooking the creek, a peaceful retreat, a reminder of what matters. You know, Karen thought her fake HOA could outlast the truth. But truth, it doesn't need glitter or gold stickers. It just needs time. When her U-Haul finally vanished, the air felt clean again, quiet, peaceful. The absurdity was over. Life settled back in. But I'll tell you this, boundaries, physical or otherwise, only matter if you stand up for them. Karen didn't lose because of 6 inches of concrete. She lost because she thought rules were optional, that other people's rights were just suggestions, and her ego was bigger than the truth. You can't build anything, homes, friendships, communities, on someone else's land and expect it to stand forever. If you take anything from my story, let it be this: protect what's yours, but do it the right way. Stand your ground, stay calm, gather your evidence, and let the truth carry the load. Sooner or later, it always does. Now, let me ask you, what would you have done if someone built their house onto your land? Have you ever had to stand up to a bully, HOA or otherwise? Drop your stories in the comments. And hey, if you enjoy wild tales like this, hit subscribe. There's plenty more HOA drama where this came from.